last Saturday. I really loved what you said too, Dale, about, I think you used a seesaw analogy to explain that even somebody who seems so difficult to live with and seems like there's always this pattern of behavior coming from this narcissist, or however you want to call the person. It's really a person experiencing insecurity.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that person can make enormous shifts. It can also have in consciousness.
Absolutely. I used to get asked that question because, in conventional therapy, as you know, you're the therapist, but they would say, well, narcissists can't change. And I think what we know through the three principles is that anybody can change. If they see something, a shift in consciousness can happen. And so what I was doing, the seesaw, I was doing that, the reason often codependents and narcissists get together is because you've got somebody that likes to take a lot, and you've got the other person, the codependent, who likes to give a lot. And so you've got this sort of like imbalance in the relationship. You've got the narcissist behavior up here, which is like me, 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 me. And then down on this end, you've got the codependent who is needless and wantless for whatever thinking they're believing, that they have to be needless and wantless to stay in a relationship or to be loved. And so what happens is with this seesaw, once the codependent sort of levels out a bit and becomes more like, hey, I have needs too, and they get healthier. Because both people, there's no way that a healthy person gets together with an unhealthy person. Whatever the labels that we're using right now, it's thinking that is not contributing to a healthy reciprocal relationship, that thinking. So when the codependent goes, oh, hang on a minute, I'm giving more than I can afford to give, which is leading to resentment and anger and bitterness. I need to sort of start taking care of myself a bit more. And as that sort of rises, their sense of entitlement, healthy entitlement, rises. Naturally, that seesaw, not always naturally, but what mostly happens when that happens is you come into balance, and so does your partner. And the dynamic of the relationship can shift then. I mean, if one person starts to get healthy and the other one stays out of balance, either up here or down here, then the relationship inevitably will fail. It's just not a good match at that point. But if both people, as you said, if their awareness grows and their their ability to see something fresh and new and go, oh my gosh, I'm contributing to this one-sided relationship. I can sort of lower my expectations and my sense of entitlement. And the person over here can say, I'm contributing by overgiving and being resentful. And I can rise up here. You've got two people coming from a mutually healthy space where they can both get their needs met and give to each other and respect each other. So I think that's what you were referring to that I was talking about last week. But I think what happens is, and we talked about this too, that sometimes narcissism has got it's a dirty word now. It's used as an insult. And people don't realize that narcissists are suffering. I mean, that bravado, all the bravado on the outside, it's just a front. It's a fake, it's a false sense of self they've built that unfortunately sometimes they don't even realize it, and they start believing this image of themselves that they've created. But it really has come out of a deep, deep wound of feeling fundamentally flawed at their core, that they have to have this defense and this image so in place. And they will get very, very angry and act out to defend that image because of the fragility that's behind it. So it's about having compassion. And again, with the codependent, I see a lot of shame. I see a lot of people, being embarrassed about, feeling addicted to another person or accepting abusive behavior. It can get very shameful. And I really like to sort of encourage that there's no shame in either. There's just a misunderstanding. You just probably, starting very young, developed this sort of way of thinking as a coping mechanism, and it's followed you through life, and this is what you see works for you, and this is how you behave. But when you, as you said, have a rise in consciousness and you see something differently, then you can go, oh my gosh. But it's also that seen the innocence on both sides, the innocence of what has got you to this point. I mean, because shame is such a shame and regret and remorse and blame and feeling like a victim. All of that stuff is just, it's just, you know, why go there? Just see the psychological innocence and do what you can do to raise your level of consciousness and your awareness. And I often say too, what happens in that, if you do still choose to leave a relationship like that, you will leave a healthy, strong individual that will be more aware of any future relationships. So it can only do good to sort of, you know, see your part, see what your thinking is that's leading you into getting into these situations, and to examine that, not what your partner's doing. They can take care of themselves over there and their awareness and their, you know, level of consciousness.
So well put, well put. Love and understanding is what it comes down to, right?
Yeah.
Love and understanding. You can't go wrong with that. And knowing that people are behaving just out of how they're feeling, which is coming from how they're thinking about themselves. So,
Yeah.
you know, you can imagine that people have been through a lot sometimes growing up.
Yeah.
That's going to come out. It's kind of going to leak out sometimes on the people they love the most.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the one thing I will say, and I find this, especially in the three principles community, is, you know, I'll have clients that will say, but, you know, if it's just my thinking, then I should put up with anything. And I think that's a dangerous slope to go down. Or they'll be, you know, classic codependent, making the other person the focus of their attention, and that they hear this innocence, the psychological innocence, and then they push down their feelings and needs and wants to take care of the other person again, because they justify the bad behavior, they justify you know, whatever it is that's causing them pain by saying, yes, but he had a painful childhood. Yes, but he's, you know, an alcoholic. Yes, he's this. Yes, he's that. And if it's all just my thinking, then I should be able to tolerate this and stay regardless. And I think it's a lot more complex than that. I think, you know, we definitely live in the feeling of our thinking, but it doesn't mean that we should stay, you know, in a situation